When suspects are smarter than the police. Hello friends, Private Investigator Purr at your service. You wouldn't think that suspects would be more cunning than the law enforcement authorities. But in these 4 unique cases, the police were left outsmarted and completely stunned. Joshua Young. First up is the case of Joshua Young. In 2011, 15-year-old Trey Zwicker's body was found behind the Liberty High School. After some investigation, detectives brought on his stepbrother in an attempt to get to the bottom of the case. Initially, Young was cooperative, explaining his movements and interactions. He talked about his father, Josh, and his partner, Amanda. He claimed,
because we were on the back porch and he told me he was going to take a shower and calm down for the night. So I went to Cassie's. I planned on, I didn't know if I was going to sleep down there or sleep down at Amanda's, but I got comfortable down at Cassie's. And I watched the movie and falling asleep down there.
Young seemed to maintain a forward and calm approach. But straight away, you can tell the detective is trying to get chummy and create a comfortable atmosphere for the suspect.
Talking to me, then you'll be going back to wherever you need to go, okay? So I appreciate that. Now I know it's a little warm in here, so I apologize for that. It's just kind of an older building. There was this...
But Young was not one to break away from his version of the story and would repeatedly mention the information he was given. The detective expressed frustration, noting,
Later, 1 month later, because what I told him was the truth. So when you start telling a couple different stories, it makes me wonder about your credibility or your truthfulness. And at this point, I believe the story you told her.
Despite the detective's attempts to unravel his story, Joshua remains steadfast, asserting his version of events. The interrogation took a turn when the detective attempted to leverage technology, suggesting this tactic aimed to unsettle Joshua, but he did not waver in his account.
We can record, and I can talk and say, Chop, hello, how are you doing, Josh Young, and I can stop it, and I can save it, and I can play it. I can talk, say, Chop, hello, how are you doing, Josh Young. See how that works? And you would never know if that was on you'd never know if this was sitting right here with you.
Joshua's father, Josh Golker, played a pivotal role in the backdrop of this case. Golker, who would later claim responsibility for the crime, added complexity to the narrative. During the interrogation, the detective highlighted inconsistencies, pointing out, challenging Joshua's recounting of events. The case took numerous twists, with Joshua's father later confessing to the crime, only to recant his statement claiming he was protecting his son. This complex mess of stories left many questions unanswered, with Joshua maintaining his innocence throughout the interrogation process. The detective's efforts to break him and make him tell the truth proved to be completely useless. Joshua's ability to withstand the intense scrutiny of law enforcement confirmed that sometimes the smartest person in the room is not the one with a detective badge.
Okay. I'm not signing nothing.
Okay.
I've been through the system, buddy. I know how it works.
I know you have.
You're
Jeff.
not my friend.
Jeff Pearson. Jeff is a legend that even I must show due respect. While Young knew how to keep his cool, in the upcoming case, the suspect knew how to invoke his legal rights. Jeff Pearson became a notable figure in the criminal justice community after he outmaneuvered the police during an interrogation following an armed robbery at a 7-Eleven in 2011. Despite being a known heroin addict and found with a gun, Pearson's astute handling of the interrogation process showcased his understanding of legal rights and interrogation tactics. Upon being arrested and brought in for questioning, Pearson demonstrated his awareness of the legal system. He inquired immediately if he was under arrest and the charges against him. His approach from the onset was to seek clarity on his situation. As he stated,
Arrest?
For now.
I'm under arrest?
Yeah, I'll explain everything, but before I explain myself to you, before we talk to each other, I need to read your rights, okay?
What am I under arrest for?
Well, like I said, I need to read your rights first. Obviously, the charge is robbery, okay?
Pearson maintained a strong defense even while going through heroin withdrawals throughout the interrogation by exercising his right to remain silent, a right emphasized during the Miranda warning read to him. Despite the detective's attempt to engage him in conversation, Pearson stood his ground, stating,
I'm not signing nothing.
Okay.
I've been through the system, buddy. I know.
The footage showed just how hard the police tried to apply their tactics, including offering comforts like drinks and trying to negotiate for information. Pip could use a refreshing beverage to enjoy this even more. Pearson's consistent refusal to engage without legal representation highlighted his understanding of his rights. He repeatedly affirmed using this strategy to avoid self-incrimination.
Right. Plain and simple. Your side of the story.
I'm not talking to you. I'm warning you.
All right.
Pearson's interrogation became a lesson in legal self-defense, illustrating the importance of knowing one's rights. Despite the pressures and the challenging circumstances of the withdrawal symptoms he was facing, Pearson resolved not to provide a confession without an attorney present. And this way, he avoided the police's efforts to extract an incriminating statement. Rip salutes you, Mr. Pearson. Michael Dixon. Things can get even more frustrating when the suspect is not even the correct one. A case of mistaken identity, a classic tale. Michael Dixon, a 45-year-old man, found himself in a terrible situation that shed light on the troubling aspects of police interrogation methods, particularly the Reed technique. After being mistakenly arrested for burglary in Hamilton, Ontario, Dixon underwent an interrogation that demonstrated the technique's potential to elicit false confessions by dismissing the concept of innocence. During the interrogation, Dixon faced a number of aggressive and deceptive tactics. Detective Jason Leake, already convinced of Dixon's guilt, utilized Reed technique strategies, such as presenting false evidence and exaggerating the strength of the non-existing case against Dixon. Despite the psychological pressure, Dixon remained steadfast in his innocence. At one point, the detective tried scaring him by saying that, to which Dixon replied,
It or not isn't up for the discussion.
Okay, well.
It's really not. There's a number of witnesses.
Great.
One of whom had a video camera.
Perfect. Okay then.
Take
Well, that's
that.
relieving. That's
So-
relieving. To be quite honest.
Yeah.
So view the video camera.
I have.
Okay.
The interrogation was characterized by a blatant disregard for Dixon's side of the story. Detective Leake told Dixon, revealing a prejudiced approach focused solely on securing a confession.
Now, your innocence and guilt in this, quite frankly, isn't an issue.
This approach was further exemplified when Leake stated,
Or whether this is a one-off thing because of the power cut and everything that's going on tonight.
Dixon's experience highlighted the Reed technique's flaws, particularly its propensity for ignoring the truth in favor of confirming preconceived notions of guilt. The interrogation ignored Dixon's alibi and failed to investigate his claims, focusing instead on coercing a confession through manipulative tactics. The police seemed more interested in showing off their power rather than realizing they weren't even talking to the right guy. So much for being smart. DaBaby Jonathan Kirk. Being a celebrity doesn't mean that law enforcement can just push them around. In January 2020, Jonathan Kirk, also known as DaBaby, faced an interrogation by police after an incident outside a Miami nightclub. Kirk was accused of being involved in a physical altercation where a victim was reportedly punched, beaten, and robbed. However, during this time in the interrogation room, Kirk demonstrated a proper understanding of his rights and the interrogation process, making it challenging for the detectives to advance their investigation. Kirk began the interrogation by refusing to answer even basic questions about his identity, asserting his right to remain silent while surprisingly waiving his right to an attorney. His stance was clear from the start.
I know if y'all had...
Throughout the interrogation, Kirk maintained his innocence and provided his version of events, countering the allegations with his narrative. He suggested that any money transactions were a part of legitimate business dealings and distanced himself from the crime scene. Kirk emphasized his financial stability and questioned the logic behind the accusation, stating,
dollars cash legally or hard earned money. I don't got to take nothing from nobody, bro.
Well, let me ask you this.
I will go outside here right now and throw $10,000 in the air. Like, I do not care about no money. I don't, bro.
Kirk's approach was to challenge the detectives' assertions and redirect the conversation, undermining their attempts to link him to the crime. He remained composed, confident, and consistent in his responses, showcasing an impressive level of self-control and strategic thinking.
We shouldn't be in no robbery, bro. So when y'all get done doing what y'all doing, y'all need to do y'all job, y'all need to follow y'all.
The detective found themselves at a dead end, unable to break through Kirk's defenses. After 48 hours in custody, with no substantial evidence obtained from the interrogation or the unclear CCTV footage, Kirk was released. 2 months later, all charges were dropped, which showed the effectiveness of his approach during the interrogation. Kirk's ability to navigate the interrogation process without breaking under pressure demonstrated a level of savvy that proved to be smarter than the police's tactics. In the words of the rapper Biggie, "Mo money, mo problems." And that brings us to a wrap of suspects that were just too smart for the police to crack. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more on Imperfect Criminal with Private Investigator Purr. Over and out.